You're not supposed to see this map. The last person who tried to trace its lines disappeared somewhere between Mongolia and, well, nowhere. The ink moves when you breathe. The continents rearrange when you blink. And the strangest part? Every time it folds toward you. So go on, unroll it. Just don't expect the world to stay where you left it. Hey guys, tonight we're unfolding something that probably shouldn't exist. A map that doesn't just show you where you are, but when. You'll see what I mean. It's called the Emperor's Forgotten Map. And if you're the kind of person who's ever stayed up way too late Googling ancient cartography anomalies, congratulations, this one's for you. And fair warning, you probably won't survive this one, chronologically speaking. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, tell me in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there right now. It helps me picture who's still awake with me in this corner of the timeline. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You find it by accident, or maybe it finds you. A sealed, dust-heavy folio buried in the basement archive of an old university you're supposed to be cataloging. The label on its leather spine has worn to an unreadable scar, but the wax seal across the flap bears something unmistakable. A royal emblem you've never seen before. A sun with too many rays. You hesitate, thumb resting on the cracked wax. No catalog entry, no record, no barcode. It's not supposed to exist, which of course makes you more curious. The air smells of old paper and camphor. The bulb above flickers once, twice, then steadies, as if it knows something significant is about to happen. You break the seal. Inside, layers of parchment unfold in stiff, deliberate creases. Not inked lines exactly, more like veins of light trapped inside the paper. Rivers shimmer faintly, mountain ranges look raised to the touch. You tilt the map under the light, and the continents shift slightly, like reflections seen through moving water. The ink doesn't just lie flat, it breathes. You blink hard, thinking it's fatigue. But the longer you stare, the clearer it becomes. The coastlines realign, islands drift, rivers snake into new paths. It's like watching time-lapse footage of a world rearranging itself, except the map does it in real time. You whisper to yourself, okay, that's not possible. The map doesn't answer, but the air in the room hums faintly, like static after lightning. You run your finger along the parchment's edge, tracing the ornate border, a pattern of interlocking suns and crescents. Near the lower corner, a line of faded script catches your eye. The language looks old, pre-Latin, maybe something like early Akkadian, but you can't place it. Still, one word stands out. Written in an almost modern script, Imperium. You flip the map over, expecting a signature, a date, anything to explain it. Instead, the reverse is blank, except for a faint burn mark dead center, the same sun symbol as the seal, perfectly circular. That's when the bulb flickers again. Once, twice, then pops. Darkness. Only the faint phosphorescent glow of the map remains, pulsing slowly like a living heart. You stand frozen, waiting for your eyes to adjust. In that glow, something new appears, invisible before. Fine black lettering crawling across the top margin. Map of that which moves. Your pulse quickens. You can almost hear the paper breathing, whispering faintly with each pulse of light. And beneath that whisper, for just a moment, you swear you hear a voice, low, distant, almost buried under centuries of silence. Murmur a phrase you don't understand, something like a name, the name of the Emperor. Only the faint phosphorescent glow of the map remains, pulsing slowly like a living heart. You stand frozen, waiting for your eyes to adjust. In that glow, something new appears, invisible before. Fine black lettering crawling across the top margin. Map of that which moves. Your pulse quickens. You can almost hear the paper breathing, whispering faintly with each pulse of light. And beneath that whisper, for just a moment, you swear you hear a voice, low, distant, almost buried under centuries of silence. Murmur a phrase you don't understand, something like a name, the name of the emperor. You don't move for a while, just breathing there in the dark, watching the glowing parchment ripple like the skin of something sleeping. Your first thought is practical. Phosphorescent residue, chemical oxidation, some forgotten ink experiment. But the part of your brain that still dreams at night whispers a quieter thought. It's alive. You grab your phone for light, its harsh LED glare cutting through the dark. The glow from the map dulls immediately, almost offended, like it's hiding. You lower the beam, and it brightens again, a slow, deliberate pulse. You whisper, "You like the dark, huh?" Of course, it doesn't respond, but the map's surface shifts ever so slightly. The coastlines twitch, oceans breathe in and out. It's mesmerizing. You notice faint writing along the bottom now, newly visible under the glow, hundreds of tiny annotations, too small for human eyes without magnification. You zoom in with your phone camera. The letters rearrange mid-focus, curling into shapes that weren't there a second ago. You blink and they've formed a line of text in plain English. Do not trace the center. You exhale, the sound loud in the empty room. Great, definitely not ominous. You should stop there, obviously. Any sane person would. But curiosity is a disease, and you've always been terminal. You pull the map fully open across the table. It's enormous, wider than your arm span, corners curling upward as if resisting gravity. You smooth them down and notice the faint burn mark again in the middle. It pulses brighter now, tiny veins of light spreading outward like capillaries. You lift your phone higher, scanning the edges. Each border is labeled with familiar names, Eurasia, Mare Nostrum, Terra Australis, but the continents are wrong. Too stretched, too fractured. It's Earth, but not yours. That's when you notice something chilling. The ink's shimmer has a pattern. It's moving not randomly, but rhythmically, breathing in time with your pulse. You test it, hold your breath, count 3 seconds. The shimmer slows. You exhale, and it speeds up again. You mutter, "Oh, that's just perfect. A cardio map." But beneath the humor, your hands are shaking. You glance toward the burnt center, the forbidden trace point, and the glow brightens in response, almost encouraging. Somewhere in the archives above you, an old ventilation shaft moans softly, but the sound feels too perfectly timed. The room seems to breathe with you. You reach out again, fingertips hovering over the center point. The air above it feels cold, heavy, magnetic. You touch it lightly. Instantly, the glow surges and the parchment flexes. Not metaphorically, it moves. A ripple rolls across it like a muscle twitch, and for one heart-stopping moment, the entire map exhales. You stumble backward, knocking your chair over. The parchment lies still again, perfectly flat, but the glow has changed color, from blue to deep amber. Lines start to redraw themselves in real time. Rivers vanish. Oceans shrink. Whole continents crumble. You realize the map isn't showing geography, it's showing history. You don't sleep that night. Even after you pack the map back into its folio and lock it inside your desk, you can still feel it. A phantom pulse thrumming just beneath your skin. Like your veins remember the rhythm. By morning, logic has returned. You convince yourself it was fatigue, a trick of the light, maybe even mild hypoxia from the old basement air. You tell yourself all the rational things adults tell themselves when they've seen something impossible. But then you find the note. It's tucked under your office door, thick parchment, folded in the same strange trifold pattern as the map. No sender, no date, Just one line written in ink the color of dried blood. If you've seen the origin, you've been seen. You read it twice before the words start to blur. The handwriting looks ancient, elegant, almost Roman in its flourish, but the phrasing feels modern. You check the security cameras in the hallway. They've been off since 2:14 a.m. You sit there for a long time, staring at the screen, wondering who or what could have known. That's when your academic instincts kick back in. You dive into research, digital archives, obscure references, forgotten bibliographies. You search for any mention of Imperium maps, moving cartography, origin landmass. Most results are dead ends, until one name appears over and over, buried in footnotes like a curse no one wanted to cite. Lucius Varro, imperial cartographer. The sources disagree on his exact era. Some place him during the late Han dynasty, others in Rome under Augustus. One Persian manuscript lists him as an advisor to the Eastern Emperor beyond the deserts. Scholars still argue whether Lucius Varro ever existed at all, or if he was an amalgam of lost explorers. But his alleged works, they sound hauntingly familiar. Descriptions of maps that breathe, rivers that rewrite, and one in particular, a final chart commissioned by an emperor who sought to outlive his own timeline. That's when a chill runs through you. The emperor's name in that account matches the one you heard whispered from the map, Emperor Hesperian, a name that doesn't appear in any verified dynasty or Roman record. It's like someone erased him or he erased himself. Your office light flickers once, breaking your focus. You glance up, and your breath catches. The folio you locked in your desk? It's on your table. Open. The map lies there again, flat and calm, glowing faintly amber even in daylight. You can't remember moving it. You're sure you didn't. You whisper, "Okay. That's new." The map seems different this time. There's a new mark drawn across the origin landmass. A faint red line leading inland to a single glyph shaped like an eye. You lean closer, studying the symbol. As your gaze lingers, the air around the parchment warps faintly, like heat haze. Your phone camera refuses to focus on it. The symbol fuzzes out, shifting between languages. Then something inside you clicks. Not a sound, but a sensation. As if your brain suddenly recognizes the pattern. The glyph means witness. The word slides into your thoughts like it's always been there. You shiver. Somewhere far back in your memory, you recall an old archaeological proverb. Maps remember more than the men who draw them. You laugh softly, nerves showing through the sound. Yeah, well, this one's remembering me now. A gust of cold air seeps through the window cracks. The map's glow intensifies, the red line brightening until it feels like a thread of fire stitched into parchment. You don't know why, but you follow it with your finger again. You expect the paper to resist, but instead it warms, and for an instant your surroundings ripple. The hum of your office disappears. The air smells of myrrh and stone dust. You hear distant chanting, slow, ritualistic. You blink, once, twice, and the flickering light above you turns into torchlight. You're no longer in your office. You're standing in a marble hall, scrolls stacked like ribs along the walls, and men in crimson robes leaning over a map exactly like yours. Only this one moves faster, rewriting itself at the Emperor's command. A man at the head of the table looks up. His eyes find you instantly, like he's been waiting centuries for this moment. "Ah," he says softly. In perfect Latin you somehow understand. "The next cartographer." You freeze. He smiles. The torches flare brighter. And when you look down, you're holding the same map, but now your reflection is inked onto its surface, standing exactly where you are. The torches flicker, throwing gold light across the walls. Every surface covered in maps. Some are drawn on parchment, others carved into thin plates of metal that shimmer with that same impossible glow. You can smell the ink, metallic, sharp, almost like iron and honey. The man, the emperor, studies you with calm curiosity, not surprise. You came through the seal, he says, voice steady and smooth as sand shifting underfoot. Most do not survive the ink's breath. You open your mouth to speak, but your throat is dry. The words come out cracked. Where am I? He smiles faintly. You are in the place where maps end and begin. He gestures toward the glowing parchment in your hands. That is not a record of land. It is the land itself, dreaming. You glance around, realizing the hall isn't ancient in ruin. It's alive in the present. Marble columns gleam, and faint music hums through the air. A low, harmonic tone that seems to come from the maps themselves. Why me? You ask quietly. He doesn't answer right away. Instead, he motions to a servant. A pale figure in crimson, face hidden by a golden mask. The servant approaches, carrying a shallow bowl of clear liquid. When they set it down, you see reflections swirling in it, images of places shifting between centuries. You touched the center, the emperor says, and the center touches back. The phrase chills you. He steps closer, robes trailing like smoke. Up close, you notice faint lines drawn along his skin, like tattoos, but glowing beneath the surface. The same pattern as the map's borders. You are from the age that forgot us, he says softly. But we did not forget you. You blink hard, trying to anchor yourself to logic. You're saying this map connects. Worlds, times, memories, he finishes. Every empire leaves an echo. This, he points to the parchment, is the sum of all echoes. Somewhere deep inside, you remember the Phaistos disc, that mysterious Bronze Age artifact found on Crete, its spiral inscriptions still unreadable. Scholars still argue whether it's language or map, record or prayer. Maybe it's all the same, attempts to talk to the future, to you. The emperor gestures for you to approach. Tell me, he says, what does your age call the world? You hesitate. Earth. He nods slowly. Still the same name, though the world has shed it many times. He motions toward one of the massive wall maps. It ripples when he waves his hand. Continents rearranging, oceans folding inward. You see Earth, Mars, and something else beyond, unnamed and luminous. Our cartographers, he says, learned that to draw the future, one must forget the present. He turns back to you, gaze sharpening. But your presence means the seal has weakened. The map has begun to rewrite itself without command. The words echo in your head. Without command. What happens when it finishes rewriting? You ask. He studies you with something between pity and fascination. Then your world will remember the one it replaced. You shake your head, stepping back. That's not possible. He cuts you off with a faint smile. And yet here you are, standing in an empire erased from memory. The room feels smaller suddenly, air thick with the scent of ink and fire. The glowing patterns along his arms pulse once, like veins of light. He reaches into the folds of his robe and draws out a quill made from something not quite feather, not quite metal, thin, alive, shimmering faintly. He holds it out to you. Every age requires its witness, he says. You are ours now. You don't move. The quill hums softly, vibrating in his palm. Take it, he insists gently. Ink remembers only the hand that dares. You reach forward slowly, the tip of your finger brushing the quill's shaft, and the world around you shifts. For an instant, you're seeing through his eyes. The emperor standing at a vast window overlooking a city made of light and stone. Towers spiraling like glass flame, streets moving like living rivers. Then fire, collapse, sand swallowing marble, time folding in on itself. You gasp, stumbling back into your own body. The Emperor watches calmly, unfazed. You have seen our end. Now you must decide if your world deserves its turn. The quill glows, waiting. You glance down at the map. The red line you traced earlier now reaches beyond the origin landmass, curling outward toward a new shape forming at the edge, something labeled only as return. And just before the light fades again, you realize the quill isn't a writing tool, it's a key. You stare at the quill for a long time, the glow painting amber veins across your palm. It hums faintly, like a note held just below hearing. Something alive, restrained. The Emperor watches you, patient, as if he's seen this moment before. You whisper, "If this is a key, what does it open?" His smile is small, tired. "The next version of your world." Before you can speak again, the marble floor shudders. The maps on the walls flicker, their glowing lines bending and rippling like disturbed water. Somewhere in the hall, a bell tolls, deep and low, resonating through your ribs. The Emperor's expression doesn't change. "It has begun," he murmurs. "The ink remembers you." The glow from the parchment in your hands intensifies, flooding the room with light so bright it burns behind your eyelids. You drop the map, or maybe it drops you. The paper twists midair, folds inward like origami, then bursts outward again. You're standing back in your office. The desk, the chair, the same half-empty coffee mug. Everything is exactly where it should be, except for one small detail. The map is still open on the desk. But now it's not glowing faintly. It's glowing through the desk. The wood has gone translucent, the floor beneath flickering with moving patterns of land and sea. And across the top margin, a new line has appeared in ink so fresh it glistens wetly under the light. "Witness confirmed." You swallow hard. The quill is still in your hand, though it looks duller now, as if it spent something of itself. You whisper to the empty room, "Okay, I'm done." But the map doesn't care. The light begins to spread outward, faint veins crawling up the walls, through the floorboards, like roots seeking something deeper. You hear the faintest sound, parchment breathing again, but now, it's syncing with your heartbeat. The map is writing back. You take a step back, phone in hand, recording instinctively. The footage shows nothing but blank parchment. No light, no motion. On camera, it's just paper. Yet to your eyes, the world is shifting. The shelves look slightly different. Books rearranged, titles you don't recognize. The fluorescent light above you hums in a lower tone, unfamiliar. You look at the wall clock. The time hasn't changed, but the date has. 2 days forward. You whisper, "Oh no." You scroll through your phone, messages, photos, news, and the headlines don't match anything you remember. Nations you've never heard of. A currency with an unfamiliar symbol. You're not where you were. You're not even when you were. Somewhere, in the back of your mind, you remember what the Emperor said. To draw the future, one must forget the present. Maybe you didn't forget. Maybe the map forgot for you. You rush to close it. But as your fingers touch the parchment, it feels warmer, softer, almost responsive, like it's anticipating your touch. A faint ripple moves across its surface. Images begin forming again, but this time not of landscapes or oceans. Faces, millions of them, each one flickering for a fraction of a second. You catch glimpses. Explorers, scholars, soldiers, children. Some you think you recognize from history books, others impossibly from your own life. Then one face holds longer, your own. The image of you on the map stares back, eyes faintly glowing, mouth open as if mid-whisper. And behind that image, faint outlines of the Emperor's hall ripple in and out of view. The quill in your hand starts to vibrate, its tip glowing brighter until it nearly burns your skin. You feel an urge, deep, instinctive to write something. The whispering starts again, louder now, layering over itself in countless voices. You can't tell if they're praying, warning, or welcoming. You catch fragments. Rewrite, record, return. Your breathing quickens. The quill moves on its own, tracing faint symbols in the air. Each stroke leaves a glowing trail that hovers for a heartbeat before dissolving. One word forms, clearer than the rest. Continue. You drop the quill, stepping back. But the word doesn't fade. It floats there, shimmering in front of you. You whisper, "No, no, no." The letters burst silently, scattering into faint motes of light that rain down across the map. Wherever they land, new writing appears. Names, coordinates, dates. All of them future dates. You lean closer and realize one of the coordinates matches your own city, your own street. The map is predicting something. Something soon. The faint hum in the air swells again. The map's glow flickers through colors. Gold, then red, then black. A storm of ink seems to swirl beneath the surface, rearranging continents faster and faster. And then silence. Everything stops. Only one phrase remains glowing at the center. You are the next cartographer. You stare at the words, breath shallow, as the glow fades back to amber. In the distance, you hear the faintest echo of the Emperor's voice. Do not let it forget you. The quill lies on the desk, quiet again, but its shadow points toward the window, toward something you can't quite see. And for the first time, you notice the stars outside don't match your sky. You spend the next few hours testing reality, though you stop calling it that after a while, because reality doesn't bend. It doesn't move under your feet like wet paint. You step outside your apartment, and the city looks wrong. It's not futuristic, not alien, just slightly off. Street signs bear names that don't exist in your memory. Cars look the same, but the logos are different, symbols curved in ways you've never seen. People walk by speaking English, but the accent feels distorted, vowel tones shifted just enough to scrape your nerves. No one notices you. That somehow is worse. You check your phone again, the date is still 2 days ahead. But now even your photos have changed. Faces in them feel unfamiliar, familiar enough to sting, like half-remembered dreams. You whisper, "The map didn't just move me, it moved everything else." Back inside, you stare at the parchment spread across your desk. It looks calmer now, like a sleeping beast. The amber glow pulses once every few seconds, syncing perfectly with your heartbeat. You think of the Emperor's words. Your world will remember the one it replaced. Maybe this is what remembering feels like. Disorientation disguised as déjà vu. You grab a notebook and start documenting. That's what you've always done: observe, record, catalog. It's the only control you have left. You list everything different. The skyline has an extra tower. The moon looks slightly larger. Coffee tastes metallic. And every clock seems 3 minutes too fast. You write until your hand cramps. When you finally look up, there's new writing on the map again. Not glowing this time. Inked in dull red, like it's been there forever but you only just learned to see it. The empire fell because it learned to remember itself. You stare at the line, reading it over and over. The handwriting looks like yours. You feel a laugh catch in your throat, dry and tired. "Of course," you whisper. "Of course it does that." You grab the quill. It's still warm and set it beside the map. "You want me to write? Fine, let's write." You touch the tip to the parchment, expecting resistance, but it slides smoothly, like glass underwater. You begin to write words at random. London, Tokyo, yesterday. The ink absorbs instantly, each word sinking beneath the surface, then vanishing. For a second, nothing happens. Then the world shifts again. The sound outside your window changes pitch, as if the air pressure just flipped. You glance out, the street below is empty. No people, no traffic. The lights are still on, but there's no motion. The entire city is paused. You whisper, "What did I just do?" The map glows faintly again, new words forming where you wrote. Author confirmed. You stumble backward, knocking over the chair. The parchment ripples once, twice, and for the briefest moment you see the Emperor's reflection in the glow. His voice echoes, faint but clear. "You cannot write what you do not remember." You shout into the empty room. "Then tell me what I'm supposed to remember." Silence. Then, slowly, new lines appear on the map. Thin, branching roads leading away from the origin landmass toward another shape forming at the edge. You lean closer. The coastline sharpens, familiar this time, not from the past, but from now. It's your city. Except, the streets don't match. The roads curve in impossible ways, spiraling inward toward a single structure at the center. A perfect circle labeled simply, the archive. You mutter, "There's no place like that here." A whisper answers, though you're not sure if it's in your head or the air around you. "There will be." You close your eyes, heart racing. You remember the phrase from section 2, "Map of that which moves." Maybe that was never a warning. Maybe it was a prophecy. You feel a strange emptiness, like static has left the air. But your ears ring faintly, a low hum that doesn't stop. You walk to the window again. The city is moving, people back, cars flowing. But you notice something small and impossible. On the far horizon, faint against the dusk, a circular structure gleams, a building that wasn't there before. You whisper, "The archive." And at that exact moment, your phone buzzes. An unknown number, a text message. You drew it well. No name, no traceable ID. You glance down at your hand. There's ink on your fingers, fresh and dark, but the quill is dry. You don't remember writing. A historical thought surfaces, almost as if the map planted it. In the 12th century, the Chinese monk Xin wrote of a self-revising map that redrew coastlines after every flood. Scholars still argue whether he was describing an early weather algorithm or something he couldn't explain. Maybe you've just recreated his legend one stroke at a time. You stare at the circular building on the horizon, its faint glow pulsing like a heartbeat. The world outside hums, slightly out of sync. And you finally realize you didn't just alter the map. You've joined it. You spend the night staring at that circular structure on the horizon. It glows faintly even through the city haze, a perfect ring of light that shouldn't exist. Not architecturally, not geographically, not in your version of the world. You tell yourself not to go. Then you find your feet moving anyway. The streets feel wrong the closer you get. Subtly rearranged, like someone shifted buildings just far enough to confuse your memory. Street names you know have changed tense, as if language itself is evolving faster than your brain can keep up. Market Street has become was Market. River Way now reads River Will. You laugh nervously. "Okay." You whisper, "That's new." The city's noise fades as you approach the ring. The air feels dense, charged, the way it does before a storm. People pass by without looking up. None of them even glance toward the massive glowing structure at the city's heart. You realize slowly that no one else sees it. It takes you nearly an hour to reach the perimeter. There's no gate, no sign, just an open plaza paved with smooth white stone. As you step onto it, the world around you seems to mute. Your footsteps echo louder than they should, and every sound beyond the circle disappears into silence. At the center stands a vast doorway, arched, seamless, pulsing with the same faint amber light as the map. You recognize the pattern etched into the stone. Interlocking suns and crescents. The Emperor's seal. You take a slow breath and step through. Inside, it's not a building. It's a hollow world. The space stretches infinitely upward, walls lined with what look like shelves, but they aren't filled with books or scrolls. They're filled with maps, thousands of them, some drawn on paper, some on glass, some etched into living light. The glow is soft, almost comforting, like standing inside a heartbeat. You whisper, "The archive." A voice answers, calm, echoing, genderless. "Welcome, witness." You freeze. Who are you? The record. The one who remembers what time forgets. You swallow hard. And what am I? The one chosen to continue the drawing. Your pulse quickens. You take a hesitant step forward. The floor beneath you ripples faintly like liquid glass. Reflections swirl. You catch glimpses of yourself in different clothes, different ages, different centuries. You whisper, "How many times have I been here?" "As many as the world has forgotten itself." You walk deeper into the archive. Each wall pulses as you pass, the maps flickering with faint motion. You see cities rising and falling, coastlines eroding and reforming. It's like watching time breathe. One map near eye level catches your attention. The ink still wet. You lean closer and your heart stops. It's your handwriting. Tiny notes scribbled in the margins. Riverway renamed. Coffee metallic. The exact things you wrote earlier in your notebook. You whisper, "How is this here?" "All maps lead home," the voice replies. "Even the ones that have not yet been drawn." You stare at the map until your vision blurs. "If this place records everything," you ask softly, "then what's at the center?" The air shifts. The walls pulse once, and every map in sight folds inward simultaneously, pages and parchment curling toward an invisible core. The entire archive exhales, and for the first time you feel gravity tilt, as if everything in existence is leaning toward the middle of this impossible place. "The origin," the voice says, "where the first cartographer wrote the first world." You step closer to the center. A spiral staircase descends into dim light, carved from stone so smooth it feels soft. You take one cautious step, then another. The deeper you go, the quieter it becomes, until even your breath feels like an intrusion. At the bottom, a single chamber waits. No torches, no shelves, just a circular pool of ink suspended in midair. It doesn't drip, doesn't ripple, it just waits. You whisper, "What is that?" "Memory." The voice is everywhere and nowhere now. You stare into the ink, and faint images form, entire civilizations blooming and collapsing in seconds. You see the emperor again, standing over the same pool, dipping his quill into it before drawing the map you found. And behind him, your reflection, standing where you are now. "He tried to rewrite eternity," the voice murmurs. "He succeeded only in trapping himself between versions." Your pulse hammers. So he's still here? All who draw remain in the drawing. You feel dizzy. The air thickens. The ink in the pool stirs, swirling faster, reflecting flashes of countless worlds. Then, faintly, beneath the swirling black, you see your city again, and at its center, the glowing ring of the archive. Inside it, a figure standing alone, staring into a pool of ink. The realization hits like cold water. You whisper, "It's drawing me drawing it." "That is how memory sustains itself," the voice replies. "Do not stop." You stumble backward. The quill in your hand hums, glowing once more, its tip dripping a single bead of liquid light that falls into the ink pool below. The surface ripples outward, and the image shifts again. This time, it shows the emperor standing beside you. Only now, his face looks older, worn, almost human. "Welcome back," he says softly. "It's been a long revision." You try to speak, but the air feels heavy, as if each word would tear the fabric of the room. And then you see it. A small, glowing phrase etched on the wall behind him, words half erased by time. If you finish the map, you end the world. The ink pool pulses once, and the whispering begins again. 1,000 layered voices murmuring your name. The map in your hand burns faintly, reshaping itself, as though the next page of the story is waiting for you to draw it. The Emperor looks almost alive. Not the statue-still vision from the last time, but a man of flesh and fatigue. His robe torn, his crown dulled, his eyes so tired they barely hold their glow. He watches you as if he's been waiting centuries. Maybe he has. "You've been here before," he says quietly. "Every witness returns." You swallow. "I'm not a witness. I'm just—" He interrupts, voice soft but sharp. "You're the one holding the quill." You glance down. It's true. Your hand trembles. The golden quill still glowing, faint traces of ink dripping into the black pool. The reflection ripples outward, showing 1,000 versions of yourself, each one writing something slightly different. The Emperor steps closer, the faint scent of parchment and storm air surrounding him. "Do you know why this place exists?" he asks. You shake your head. "Because the world refuses to end neatly." You blink, unsure whether it's a riddle or an answer. "End neatly?" He gestures toward the walls where maps shift like breathing skin. Every age draws itself into being. Kings, scholars, sailors, dreamers. Each believes they're creating something new, but they're only redrawing the same outline, again and again. He sighs, and for a fleeting moment he looks almost kind. "I tried to make it stop, to draw a world that would stay still." You whisper, "And what happened?" The Emperor smiles, a sad, knowing smile. "It worked. For a moment." Behind him, the ink pool stirs again, forming a memory. You see his empire, golden cities, endless fields, towers reaching the sky. Everything perfectly symmetrical, precise, too perfect to breathe. Then cracks appear. The rivers stop flowing. The stars blink out one by one. He continues, "Perfection doesn't hold. It suffocates time. And time always rebels." You watch the reflection of his empire crumble. The streets twist, the towers melt, the people dissolve into parchment dust. "So you destroyed it?" "No," he says quietly. "It destroyed itself, the moment I tried to remember it forever." You feel that line echo inside you. The phrase from earlier surfaces again. The empire fell because it learned to remember itself. You whisper, "That line, it was yours." The Emperor's eyes flicker, just once. "It was ours." You step closer to the ink pool, mesmerized. The surface mirrors your face and his side by side, identical down to the smallest twitch. A shiver runs through you. "Are you saying?" He nods slowly. The cartographer and the Emperor were never two people. Just two versions of the same memory, one dreaming of power, the other dreaming of truth. You shake your head. "No, that's not possible." He chuckles softly. "Scholars still argue whether identity survives through time, or whether we're only echoes shaped by the stories we inherit." His words hang in the still air. The ink beneath you ripples again, this time showing scenes you remember. The glowing map in your apartment, the text message. You drew it well, and the circular building that appeared on the horizon. All of it replaying beneath your feet. You whisper, "This isn't memory. This is a feedback loop." "Exactly," the Emperor says. "The world is rewriting itself faster than you can understand it. Every time you draw, you bring another version closer, until eventually they overlap, and time forgets which one was real." You look down at the map in your hands. Its ink shivers faintly, alive again. You trace your finger over a familiar curve, your city's coastline, and as you do, the Emperor's voice softens. Do you feel that? You nod. The line pulses under your touch, as though responding to your heartbeat. You're not just drawing, he says. You're synchronizing. The more you remember, the more the map remembers through you. You whisper, "What happens if I stop?" His expression darkens. Then the world ends unfinished. The thought chills you. And if I keep going? He smiles faintly. Then it ends complete. The silence that follows is heavy, filled with quiet electric air. The maps on the walls shimmer, showing flashes of other realities. Oceans frozen in mid-wave, cities made of light, stars burning in reverse. You realize they're all endings, different worlds that reached completion, or collapsed trying. You ask, barely audible, "What happens to you?" The Emperor looks at his fading reflection in the ink. "I've been redrawn too many times. I'm more pattern than person now. But maybe you." He points the faintest tremor toward you. "You might still be the first version." You laugh nervously. "That's supposed to make me feel better?" He smiles faintly. "It's supposed to make you careful." You feel the quill grow heavier in your hand. Its glow dimming as though waiting for your next move. "Go above," he says suddenly. "Find the next map. The one that's not finished yet." You hesitate. "Where?" He glances upward, to the spiral staircase you descended from. The air around it shimmers like heat. "The archive has many floors," he says. "You've only seen the ones that remember the past. Now, climb toward the ones that remember what hasn't happened." The words settle deep in you, strange but magnetic. You take one step back toward the stairs. The Emperor's figure flickers, his form beginning to fade into light. You call out, "Will I see you again?" He pauses, halfway dissolved into the air. "If you do, I'll be someone else. Or maybe you will." And with that, he vanishes, leaving only the faint shimmer of ink rising from the pool like smoke. You're alone, but the whisper remains, circling softly through the chamber. "Remember carefully. Draw gently." You glance once more at the quill in your hand, and it hums, warm against your skin, like a small heartbeat calling you forward. So you climb, and as you do, the walls pulse in rhythm with your steps, whispering faint phrases from maps that no longer exist. You don't know if you're ascending through space or through memory. But one thing feels certain now: the archive isn't keeping history. It's writing tomorrow. The stairs seem endless. You climb until your knees ache and your lungs feel thin. But there's no sense of height or depth, just motion. The light around you changes slowly from amber to a cold, pale blue, the color of paper soaked in moonlight. When you finally reach the top, you find yourself in another vast chamber, smaller than the first but stranger. The walls curve outward, made of transparent crystal. Behind them, something shifts. Not light, not shadow, but outlines of cities floating in mist. You step closer and realize what you're looking at. Maps. But these aren't drawn, they're alive. Streets shimmer, rivers flicker, clouds move slowly over glowing coastlines. You whisper, "These are maps of the future." A faint voice answers, not the record this time, but something softer, almost human. "Drafts, not futures." You spin around. A woman stands a few feet away, tall, calm, dressed in ink-stained robes. Her eyes reflect the same pale blue light as the walls. "Who are you?" you ask. "The architect." Her tone is even melodic. "I design the versions before they are chosen." You blink. "Chosen by who?" "By those who remember." You pause, piecing it together. "You mean me?" She smiles faintly. "You, the Emperor, the sailors, the dreamers, every mind that ever believed in tomorrow. You're all architects in denial. You step closer, watching one of the maps behind her. It shows a city suspended above water, floating platforms connected by light bridges. Drones move like fireflies between towers that twist in impossible geometry. That looks familiar, you whisper. Like a concept I saw once online. She nods. Dreams leak easily between versions. You turn to her. So all of this, all these maps, they're potential futures? Potential presents, she corrects gently. Every map here describes a moment that could be, or was, depending on who remembers it first. The phrase spins in your head. Depending on who remembers it first. You glance again at the living walls. Each one pulses faintly as if aware of your gaze. Show me mine, you say. The architect tilts her head. You don't want to see that. Ido. A long silence. Then, she waves her hand slowly through the air. The crystal wall in front of you ripples, rearranging itself until the outlines sharpen into something heartbreakingly familiar. Your city. Again. But this version, it's ruined. The streets are flooded. The skyscrapers have collapsed inward, forming spirals of glass and steel. The circular archive still stands in the center, cracked but glowing, light seeping through the fractures like veins of fire. You whisper, "When is this?" "That depends," she says quietly, "on whether you stop drawing." You feel the world tilt slightly beneath your feet. You're saying I caused this? Every line you draw shifts the balance. Maps aren't about what exists, they're about what's prioritized. Every city, every boundary, every empire is just an opinion carved into reality. You're holding the opinion of the world. The quill in your hand grows warm again, the glow faintly pulsing in sync with the ruined city on the wall. You can't tell if it's guilt or awe that makes your chest feel heavy. You ask softly, "Can I change it?" "Yes," she says, "but not without erasing something else." You turn back to the map. The image flickers again. A different version of your city appears, alive, vibrant, thriving. Music floats through the streets. People laugh in languages you don't know. But as that version stabilizes, the glowing ruins fade from existence. You whisper, "So for one world to live, another must forget," she finishes. The phrase lands like a weight. You look at the glowing city, the better version, and feel a strange ache. Which one's real? She smiles gently. Whichever you remember most clearly. You step closer to the crystal wall, almost touching it. The glow intensifies. You can see details now. People walking, clouds drifting, even your own reflection among them. For a moment, you feel gravity pulling you forward, as though the map wants you inside it. The architect's voice cuts through the hum. "Careful. The drafts can take you if you hesitate." You pull back, trembling. "Why show me this?" "Because soon you'll have to choose." You frown. Choose what? Which version of history survives? The words hang in the cold blue air, echoing faintly. You whisper, "That's not my job." "Then why are you here?" You don't have an answer. The architect studies you for a long moment, then steps closer. The emperor failed because he tried to finish the map. You might fail for the opposite reason. You look up at her. "Because I refuse to?" She nods once. "Because you'll keep redrawing it until there's nothing left to draw." You stare down at the quill. This glow flickers like a heartbeat fading. The silence around you thickens until you can hear your own pulse. You finally ask, "If I stop, what happens to you?" "We'll become footnotes." She smiles faintly. Every architect does eventually. You look back at the glowing map, the perfect, living version of your city. Then at the ruins fading behind it. Then at the quill in your hand. The air hums softly, like an engine waiting for a command. And somewhere deep below, you hear it again. the Emperor's voice, distant but distinct. If you finish the map, you end the world. The architect hears it too. Her expression changes, not fear exactly, but recognition. He's still drawing, she murmurs. You whisper, I thought he was gone. He is, and he isn't. The map never loses its author. It just adds more hands. The light around you flickers. The crystal walls tremble. The living maps begin to distort, collapsing inward, merging into one another. Cities overlap, oceans blur, borders vanish. The archive groans, alive and struggling to contain the revisions. You grip the quill tighter. The architect steps back, her form beginning to fade into the blue light. Go, she says softly. Find the top floor. That's where he's rewriting the end. The quill hums louder, almost guiding your hand upward. You take a step toward the next staircase as the floor beneath you ripples like water. Architect, you shout. Will I know when I get there? Her voice echoes faintly as her outline dissolves into mist. You'll know because there won't be any maps left. The floor vanishes beneath you, and you fall. Not down but forward through light, through ink, through every version of every world you might have drawn. And for a brief, terrifying moment you realize you're not falling out of the archive. You're falling into the next draft. You don't hit the ground. You arrive. The sensation isn't falling or landing. It's being placed. Like the world gently decided where you should go next. When your vision clears, you're standing in an open plain of pale sand. No walls, no ceiling, just horizon in every direction. The air hums with a faint vibration, and every few seconds, the dunes ripple as if something is breathing beneath them. The map is still in your hand, glowing faintly now, its parchment no longer flat but curved, three-dimensional. It's forming hills and valleys in miniature, reshaping itself to mirror the landscape around you. You whisper, it's mapping this place as I stand here. The quill pulses once, warm against your palm. A drop of golden ink lands on the parchment, and a new ridge rises from the sand a few meters away, like the ground itself is obeying. You test it, draw a small circle on the map. Seconds later, a perfect ring of stones materializes on the real ground. You step inside it. The air changes temperature. The whisper returns. That same soft tone you've come to half dread, half crave. Welcome to the draft of creation. It's the record's voice again, though faint, as if echoing through deep time. You whisper, so this is where worlds begin. Where they almost begin, the voice corrects. Only those remembered start to exist. The rest remain sketches in the sand. You look around, the plain seems infinite, but not empty. Shapes move at the edges of perception. Half-built mountains, unfinished rivers, cities made of outline and light. It's like walking through a sketchbook of the universe before the ink dries. Why am I here? You ask. Because the map is almost complete. It is remembering you faster than you can forget yourself. You frown. What does that mean? You have drawn too much. The world cannot tell whether you are its author or its echo. You feel your pulse in your fingertips. The quill grows heavier again. It feels alive now, pulsing softly like a heart. You kneel and touch the sand. Feels real, warm, textured. But when you lift your hand, the grains float upward, suspended midair before dissolving into lines of light that settle back onto the parchment map. You whisper, it's recording me. Yes, the record says. And soon it will finish you. That sentence chills you deeper than any nightmare. You try to fold the map, but it resists, stiff, unyielding, alive. The lines shimmer and rearrange themselves faster than you can blink. Every fold you attempt simply births a new coastline, a new city, a new echo. You shout into the wind, I'm done drawing. I'm finished. The horizon trembles, and a voice answers. Not the record this time, not the architect. It's the emperor. Then why does the map still move? You spin around. He's standing a few meters away, robes torn and eyes brighter than ever. But now, there's something different. The air bends around him, as if reality is slightly adjusting itself to accommodate his presence. You glare. You're rewriting again. I never stopped. You step closer. You said you were gone. I said I was pattern. Patterns don't vanish. They repeat. You look at the glowing map between you, trembling faintly like an exposed nerve. You're the one finishing it. He smiles faintly. No. You are. You open your mouth to argue, but the map flares suddenly, lines racing across its surface faster than thought. The ground shakes beneath you. In the distance, mountains rise like ink stains on paper, whole cities sketching themselves into being in seconds. You see, the emperor murmurs. The map isn't following us. It's becoming us. The phrase sinks into you like cold water. You glance at your reflection in the quill's golden surface. Your features are flickering, sketch-like, as if your outline can't quite decide where it belongs. You whisper, I'm not real. The emperor tilts his head. Real is just the most consistent illusion. You laugh, a hollow sound swallowed by the wind. You trapped yourself here. I'm not going to. He smirks faintly. You already have. You look down at your feet and freeze. Your shadow isn't attached anymore. It stretches across the sand toward the emperor, merging seamlessly with his. You stumble backward, panicked. The map flares again, and this time it's not responding to your movement. It's anticipating it. The lines shift milliseconds before you move, as if it already knows what you're about to do. You whisper, it's predicting me. It's remembering you, the emperor corrects. You drop the quill. It hovers midair, spinning slowly, dripping golden ink that doesn't fall. Each droplet forming new coordinates on the map. The record's voice hums softly through the air again, quiet but omnipresent. The author and the archive are merging. There will soon be no distinction. The emperor raises his hand toward the horizon. The dunes rise in unison, folding and refolding like waves of parchment. I tried to stop this once, he says, but the map doesn't want peace. It wants completion. You whisper, and what happens when it's complete? It will close, the record replies, and all versions of history will flatten into one. The emperor meets your gaze, and for the first time he looks scared. Listen to me, he says. Don't finish the map, no matter what it shows you. Promise me that. You hesitate. You told me I had to. I was wrong, he whispers. I wanted control. You want truth. Both destroy the page. The wind rises, scattering sand into spirals that glow with inklight. The quill hums violently now, spinning faster, pulling both of you toward the parchment like gravity inverted. It's starting, the record says. The emperor shouts over the storm, throw it away! You reach for the quill, but the moment your fingers touch it, time stops. The sand freezes midair. The wind silences. The emperor's expression locks in place, half fear, half relief. And in that stillness you hear a single heartbeat. Not yours, not his, but the map's. It speaks, not in words, but in the quiet certainty of ink moving across parchment. Finish me. You look down at the map. Only one blank space remains, the center. A perfect circle labeled. The origin. The same word you saw in the lowest chamber of the archive. And now the circle begins to expand. Slowly, patiently, waiting for your final line. Your hand shakes. The world holds its breath. Somewhere deep inside the silence, a whisper threads itself through the still air. The Emperor's voice, fading but clear. If you finish the map, you end the world. You close your eyes, and the quill moves anyway. The quill moves on its own. A thin line of gold runs across the parchment, trembling with each heartbeat. You try to pull your hand away, but it's no longer just your hand. It's something older, steadier, belonging to everyone who ever drew before you. The line curves, spirals, expands. The map shudders, and the air itself bends around it. The sand beneath your feet liquefies into shimmering parchment. The dunes flatten into sheets. The horizon folds inward like paper caught in a slow, graceful implosion. You whisper, "It's drawing the end." "No," the record murmurs. "It's drawing the beginning again." The words echo, soft and infinite. All around you, the half-built cities and floating outlines begin to twist toward the map's center. Rivers unflow, mountains invert. Light unspools from the sky like ink bleeding backward through time. The Emperor's frozen figure begins to move again, but only barely. He's caught mid-step, the world pulling him in like a reflection being erased. His voice arrives a second late, distorted, fragmented. "Stop the circle." But you can't. The quill refuses to still. The ink hums, stretching beyond the parchment, sketching invisible lines in the air. You realize the world isn't ending. It's collapsing into the drawing. A nearby dune folds in half, turning into paper. Another one vanishes into the glow. The wind dissolves into lines of script. You whisper, "I'm not outside the map anymore." "You never were," the record says softly. You feel the words in your chest rather than hear them. The realization spreads slow and heavy. Every version of you, every breath you've taken, every second you believed was happening. All ink, all lines. The map was never an artifact. It was a mirror, and you've been staring at its reflection from the inside point 73605. You drop the quill, but it doesn't fall. It hovers midair, tip glowing brighter, humming louder. The parchment beneath it begins to unravel, light streaming upward into the air, forming shapes. Letters, symbols, cities collapsing into script. You watch, mesmerized and horrified, as words themselves become architecture. The ruined towers rebuild, this time made of language. Sentences twist into bridges. Every motion you've ever made becomes a line of text looping endlessly around you. You whisper, "This is how memory looks from the outside." "No," the record corrects. "This is how memory becomes time." You blink and the plane is gone. Now you're standing in an endless corridor made of light and parchment. The walls move like breathing paper. Your footsteps leave words behind that immediately fade into the glow. Every few steps, whispers bloom, voices of others who came before you. Sailors describing stars that no longer exist. A monk murmuring the coordinates of a forgotten temple. The Emperor's voice repeating the same line over and over. Perfection doesn't hold. You follow the corridor. Curves gently, endlessly. You realize it's forming another circle, the same one you drew on the map. And in the center of the curve stands a door. The simple, unmarked. No symbols, no hinges. Just there, waiting. You approach cautiously. "Is that the end?" you ask. "It's what remains when endings forget they were supposed to end," the record replies. You reach for the handle, except there isn't one. The door opens anyway, silently, as if it was waiting for your thought rather than your touch. On the other side is light, not blinding, soft, warm, the kind that feels like dawn through closed eyelids. You step forward, and everything slows. Your heartbeat, your breath, even your thoughts stretch into long, gentle waves. And then you see it. The Emperor, kneeling beside a vast sphere of glowing ink suspended in the air. Is the origin larger now, almost alive? He looks up. His voice is weary. You couldn't stop either, could you? You kneel beside him. It didn't let me. He smiles weakly. No one ever does. The map writes back. The sphere pulses once, ripples spreading through the air like concentric waves. Inside it, you see fragments, flashes of every place you've been. The glowing archive, the blue draft chamber, your apartment, your city, all of them floating inside this liquid memory. You whisper, "It's all here." The Emperor nods. Every version of every world, every choice you drew. He dips a finger into the glowing sphere. The ripples solidify into new lines across its surface, patterns that look almost like constellations. "Do you know what this is?" he asks. You shake your head. "The true map," he says softly. "Not of land, not of empires, but of possibility." The sphere glows brighter. The walls of the corridor begin to fade, turning translucent, revealing layers of other corridors spiraling infinitely outward. You realize the archive isn't underground, it's everywhere. Every world, every timeline, every dream, just another floor in the same impossible structure. You whisper, "We've never left it." He smiles faintly. "Exactly." You look down at the quill, now resting weightless in your palm again. The glow is faint, tired, but alive. "If you draw again," the Emperor says, "you'll create another version, another chance. But the cost." He doesn't finish. He doesn't have to. The air trembles with the sound of fading worlds. You glance at the sphere. The blank circle at its center waits, unmarked, untouched. The last space that hasn't been written yet. You whisper, "This is where it ends." "Or begins," the record says gently. You close your eyes. The quill trembles between your fingers. Somewhere, faint and fragile, you hear laughter. The same tone you had when this journey began, back when it was just a curiosity, a piece of parchment, a whisper in the dark. You exhale slowly, and you start to draw again. The quill glides across the glowing surface without resistance, like skating on still water. Each stroke you make doesn't just draw, it reveals. Landscapes unfold in slow, blooming spirals. Oceans pulse into being, not as blue expanses but as rippling fields of reflected thought. You realize you're no longer drawing places, you're drawing moments. Each shimmer of light is someone's memory, someone's forgotten world. You lean closer. Inside one glowing arc, you see a city that almost looks like yours, only cleaner, quieter, suspended under a dome of faint starlight. People walk below, their shadows synchronized perfectly, as if choreographed by a patient god. You whisper, "Is that mine?" "One of yours," the record replies, voice soft and steady. "The version that wrote you before you were born." You pause, letting that sink in. Then, "All this time, I was someone's echo?" "Everyone is," the record murmurs. "The question is, whose?" You turn the sphere slightly, and the entire world tilts with it. Tiny continents slide into alignment. Rivers thread themselves backward. Stars blink in unison. The whole universe inside seems aware of you now, watching from every reflective surface. You realize the same way an animal senses a storm. The map isn't an object. It's awake, and it remembers everything. A faint hum begins again, that low vibration you felt when you first entered the archive. Only now it's layered, voices beneath the tone, thousands of whispers whispering at once. You pick out fragments. "Don't forget the shore." "Write the line again." "Erase the emperor." You pull your hand back, unsettled. The sphere trembles, as if longing for another touch. "Why does it sound hungry?" you ask quietly. "Memory always is," the record answers. "The more you feed it, the more it craves. The Emperor is watching you from across the chamber. He looks pale, translucent, his features outlined in gold light like he's being redrawn moment by moment. "Don't listen to it," he says, voice shaking. "It doesn't end. It just loops. Every time you finish, it starts again. That's why I tried to destroy it." You stare at him. "You wanted to erase the entire map?" He nods. "Erase, not complete. I thought if I could break the pattern, maybe the world could stop rewriting itself." The record hums, almost amused. Scholars still argue whether the Emperor ever tried to destroy anything, or if he simply rewrote failure into legend. You almost laugh at the absurd calm in that statement. Even now, with time dissolving, the record sounds like an academic giving a lecture no one else can attend. You look around the chamber. The walls are dissolving again. Words dripping down like wax. Letters rearranging into new languages that vanish as soon as you blink. You whisper, "It's rewriting us again." "Correction," the record says. "You are rewriting you." The quill twitches in your hand, glowing more brightly, like a heartbeat trying to match your pulse. You feel a pull in your chest, gentle, insistent, seductive. It wants to draw again. The Emperor reaches toward you, his hand trembling. "Don't. You'll fall into it." You meet his eyes. Maybe that's what it wants. He shakes his head. "No. It doesn't want anything. It's not alive. It's just truth. And truth doesn't care what it takes to be known." You feel the weight of that. Heavy, cold, honest. You glance at the glowing sphere, your reflection shimmering faintly across its surface. You look transparent now, like a memory fading at the edges. You reach out, your fingertips brushing the map's light. The warmth seeps through you, flooding your veins with something that feels like nostalgia. Suddenly you see flashes, snippets of moments not your own. A girl drawing constellations in the sand. An old cartographer mapping stars onto parchment made of glass. The Emperor standing in the same spot centuries ago, holding the same quill. The truth hits you like a quiet revelation. You are not the first to finish this map. You are simply the next hand it borrowed. The thought makes you dizzy. You stagger back, the floor rippling beneath your feet. "Why me?" you whisper. "Why this time?" "Because you looked," the record says softly. "And once you look, you can't stop seeing." You close your eyes, hoping darkness might help. It doesn't. The map is there too, inside your eyelids, lines and coordinates glowing behind every blink. You can feel the sphere's hum syncing with your heartbeat now, like it's rewriting your pulse to match its rhythm. The Emperor steps closer, fading more with each word. "You have to let it end," he says. "Just walk away." You try. You really try. But when you turn, you find no doorway, no corridor, only more parchment, stretching endlessly in every direction. Each step you take writes new terrain behind you, letters fading as you move forward. You whisper, "There's no outside left." "Exactly," the record replies. "Completion means containment." You realize suddenly what that means. The moment you drew the origin, you closed the loop. Everything now exists inside the map, including you. You look down at your hand. It's faintly translucent. Ink runs beneath your skin like veins. The Emperor's voice fades to a whisper. "It's finishing the draft." Or beginning the next version. The record hums. The quill in your hand glows one last time, then stills, its light dimming into a slow heartbeat. For the first time since this began, the world is utterly silent. You exhale long and slow. You feel the ink inside you cool. Then, faintly, beneath the quiet, a sound returns. Soft, rhythmic, familiar. Page turning. The record's final whisper threads through the silence. "You are now written." Silence. For a long moment, that's all that exists. a wide, white stillness that feels too complete to disturb. Then, slowly, the light begins to breathe. Pulses once, twice, and with every pulse, faint outlines return. The chamber, the sphere, the emperor, and you. Only now, everything feels thinner, like you're both drawn on fragile paper that's been erased too many times. You reach out. Your hand leaves a faint smudge in the air, glowing briefly before fading. Even gestures here become edits. You whisper, "Am I still in the map?" "You never left," the record replies. But now you're close enough to its heart to hear it think. The hum returns, not as sound, but as structure. The entire world vibrates in patterns that feel like words you almost remember. The Emperor turns toward you, his eyes softer now. You finished the circle. You nod slowly. It closed everything. He exhales, and the air around him flickers. That means it's rewriting me again. You too soon. You watch him fade in and out of focus, his features slipping like wet ink. Then how are we talking? Memory, the record answers simply. It stores conversations the same way it stores maps, repeating them until meaning softens. You step closer to the Emperor. If we're both memories, can we change the script? He hesitates. Maybe, but you'd have to draw something outside language. You blink. Outside language? He nods, faint smile ghosting his lips. Something that can't be described, only felt. That's the one thing the map can't contain. Scholars still argue. The record interrupts. Whether such a concept exists, every attempt to define beyond definition only loops the circle again. You laugh softly. Even now, it's still lecturing us. The Emperor smirks weakly. It always does. That's how it survives. The glowing sphere between you flickers, as if listening. You can see its center, the origin, expanding again, slow and patient. The blank circle yawns open like an eye awakening for the first time. You feel drawn to it. Every heartbeat, every thought, every unfinished dream hums toward that single empty space. Feels less like a place and more like forgiveness, a reset button for everything you've ever known. The Emperor's voice trembles. It's offering you the rewrite. You whisper, "What happens if I accept?" "You'll erase this version of the world," he says. "Mine." Yours. Every timeline born from this map. The record hums approvingly. And in its place you may draft another. Clean. Infinite. Forgotten. You look down at the quill in your hand. It glows faintly, waiting. A strange calm settles in you. There's no fear left, only inevitability. The choice feels ancient, like it's been waiting long before you were born. You ask, softly, "Did you ever take it?" The rewrite. The Emperor looks away. "I tried." "What stopped you?" He exhales, the light trembling with his words. "Love. Once you've remembered something completely, you can't unwrite it without losing what made you human." His hand flickers through the glow, reaching toward you but never quite touching. "Don't make my mistake." The map doesn't care if it's beautiful or broken. It only cares if it's complete. You look back at the origin. The blank space pulses, faintly mirroring your heartbeat. It's almost inviting, not destruction, but quiet. You take a slow breath. If I let it stay incomplete, what happens? You remain, the record says. Half-written, unfinished, but free. You exhale, the sound dissolving into light. And if I finish it, you become the next emperor. The words land softly, but they carry weight like gravity. You stare at the quill, at your faint reflection trembling within its golden sheen. You see yourself, tired, ink-stained, fading. But behind that reflection, for just a heartbeat, another face stirs. His face. The Emperor looks at you, not surprised, not angry, just knowing. "It's always you," he says quietly. Every time, you freeze. What do you mean? He smiles faintly. The Emperor isn't a person. It's the title the map gives the one who finishes it. And each version thinks they're the last. The air stills. You whisper, "So you were me." He nods. "And soon I'll be you again." For a heartbeat, the world flickers. Both of you overlapping like two transparencies on a projector. You can feel his memories, his exhaustion, his desire for peace. You whisper, "Then how do I break it?" He leans closer, voice like fading ink. "By drawing nothing." You stare at the quill in your hand. The tip glows faintly, patient, almost kind. "Write nothing," he says again, quieter. "Let silence finish the story." The sphere trembles violently now, as if resisting the thought. The record's tone sharpens, metallic. That action is undefined. Correction required. You close your eyes. You lift the quill. And you don't draw. You just breathe. The hum builds to a roar. A storm of syllables trying to form around the emptiness you've created. The map shakes, its lines fraying, its language unraveling at the edges. The Emperor's fading outline looks at you with something like relief. "You did it." You whisper, "Did what?" He smiles. "You let it forget." The light expands, gentle, blinding, endless. And then there is only silence again. You wake to quiet. Not the kind of quiet that follows chaos, but the kind that was always there, waiting beneath the noise. The air feels soft, folded, almost weightless. The light has no source. It just exists, diffused evenly across a world that might not be there anymore. You sit up slowly, expecting the map, the quill, the sphere, anything familiar. But there's only blankness. Not white, not gray, just absence. You whisper, "Is this nothing?" The record answers, though its voice is fainter now, like sound carried across a dream. "No. This is everything before it remembers what to be." You glance around, but there's no horizon, no sense of direction. Just an endless canvas trembling faintly with potential. You realize the silence isn't empty. It's waiting. You try to stand, but your steps don't make sound. They ripple. Every motion sends gentle waves through the air, shaping faint outlines, sketches of mountains, of rivers, of places you almost recognize. The map is gone, but its memory is echoing through you. And for the first time you understand you are not inside a story. You are what remains after one. The record's voice hums softly. Creation isn't an act. It's a habit. Even emptiness tries to remember form. You breathe out slowly, and the air shimmers, as if your breath alone can coax shape from the void. A faint landscape begins to form. Delicate hills made of light, a horizon just barely sketched into existence. Feels fragile but alive. You whisper, "Is it starting again?" "Possibly," the record murmurs. Scholars still argue whether a forgotten map can rewrite itself, or if it simply dreams it can. A wry smile crosses your face. Even now, when the universe has unmade itself, the record still sounds like it's giving a bedtime lecture. "Are you still here?" you ask softly. "For now," it says, "until the next version decides to name me again." The words linger, bittersweet. You look down at your hands, translucent but steady. No ink, no glow. Just you, simple and quiet. The world is so still you can hear your own thoughts brushing against it. Each one creates faint motion, tiny ripples of color and light. Memories drift through. The Emperor's face, the sphere's pulse, the endless corridors of parchment. They come and go like reflections in still water. And then one ripple catches. You turn toward it. Far in the distance, a figure walks across the horizon. Faint, shimmering, slow. The closer they come, the clearer they become, though clear feels wrong here. They are drawn in strokes of faint gold, unfinished, like someone sketched them in a hurry. You recognize the walk before you recognize the face. It's you, the earlier you, curious, stubborn, clutching the quill as if it were truth itself. You watch silently as that version of you kneels, studying something invisible on the ground, perhaps the first line of a map yet to exist. You whisper, "It's starting again, isn't it?" The record hums softly, almost affectionately. Every forgetting becomes a beginning. Every silence hides a seed. You close your eyes. The air trembles with warmth, the kind that feels like sunrise remembered rather than seen. Part of you wants to shout, to warn the version of yourself starting anew. But your voice stays still. You understand now the map isn't a curse or a trap. It's a mirror, reflecting the eternal instinct to understand, to look, to draw, to name what can't be named. The faint figure of your earlier self looks up suddenly, as if sensing your gaze, and for just an instant, your eyes meet across impossible time. The air ripples with recognition, and then they smile, a soft, knowing, tired smile. You laugh under your breath. "Of course," you whisper. "I was always going to do it." The record fades with a final murmur. "You always do." The faint outline of the earlier you bends over the ground again. The first line forms, gentle, hesitant, alive. And with it, color returns to the horizon. The hills glow faintly gold. The air deepens into sky. You feel yourself dissolving, but there's no fear, only peace. You were never the keeper of the map. You were its echo, carrying the story forward just long enough for someone else, another version of you, to find it again. The silence exhales one last time, as if satisfied. You whisper, softer now, barely sound, "Let it begin." The world blinks. A faint hum returns, that same gentle vibration you felt at the very start, back when this was just curiosity and whispers. And then, somewhere far away, a voice says, faint and playful, "Hey guys, tonight we're going to talk about something strange." The loop closes, gentle as a sigh. There's no beginning sound this time. No voice. No. Just that slow pulse, the faint thrum of existence remembering itself. You drift weightlessly through what's left of the map. The parchment sky above you has turned translucent, showing constellations made not of stars but of faint, golden words suspended in infinity. Each one vibrates softly, spelling fragments of stories long forgotten. Names, places, hopes, mistakes. You reach out and brush your fingers through the glowing script. It ripples like warm water, reforming into something new, something familiar. It's a map again, not drawn, not built, but felt. You can sense its structure in your bones. Every beat of your heart draws a coastline. Every breath reshapes the air. You whisper, "Is this the final version?" The record answers from nowhere, or maybe from within you now. There are no final versions, only pauses between drafts. You smile faintly. "Then what happens to us?" "You continue," it says, "not as ink, but as echo." You close your eyes. The world shifts again. You feel yourself dissolve. Not dying, not vanishing, but thinning into rhythm. You can feel the pulse of creation, steady and endless, like ocean waves lapping at the edge of memory. For the first time, you understand the Emperor's exhaustion. Creation isn't about power. It's about endurance, about choosing to imagine the world again after every erasure. A flicker catches your attention. The Emperor's figure, distant but visible, walking away across a horizon that barely exists. He turns once, his expression calm, lighter than before. "Was it worth it?" you ask, though you're not sure he can hear. He pauses and smiles. "It always is." And just like that, he fades into light. The silence that follows is deep, endless, kind. You stand or maybe float, surrounded by the faint shimmer of what once was. Every idea you ever touched hums faintly around you, as if grateful to have been remembered at all. You whisper, "I thought endings were supposed to feel bigger." "They are," the record says softly, "until you've lived enough of them." You chuckle quietly. You're still here. Always. Somewhere, someone will tell this story again. And when they do, I'll be waiting between their words. You look down at your hand. The quill is gone. Only a faint golden stain remains along your palm, pulsing softly like a heartbeat. You trace it with your thumb. "Guess I can't ever wash it off." "Why would you want to?" You take a slow breath. The air smells faintly of parchment and rain. The white world around you begins to shimmer with color. Faint blues, pale golds, a soft hum of greens like spring remembered through glass. Each color carries a memory. Laughter, fear, curiosity, wonder. All the little human things that made the drawing worth doing. You whisper, "So this is what remains after everything else fades." "Not quite," the record says. "There's one last thing." The air stills. The light bends slightly, folding inward. A shape begins to form, not a map this time, not a sphere, not even a person. Just a single glowing line hanging in the void, trembling softly. "That's you," the record whispers. Not the author, not the echo, just the line that connects both. You step closer, hesitant. The line hums gently, responding to your presence. It doesn't need to be read or understood, only felt. You reach out, touch it, and in that moment, everything aligns. Every version of the map, every world, every forgotten emperor and wandering storyteller converge into one soft pulse of light. For a second, you see it all at once. Every story folding inward, like countless mirrors reflecting the same truth. Nothing ever ends. It only rewrites itself in new handwriting. The light expands, warm, infinite, gentle. The record's voice fades completely, leaving only its final whisper, almost human. "Sleep now. The next line will come when it's ready." You let go. The glow envelopes you, warm as breath. The pulse slows. You dissolve into the soft hum of everything that ever was, and everything still waiting to be. And now, it's quiet again. The hum has faded into the kind of silence that feels alive, soft, weightless, full of breathing space. You can almost hear your own pulse syncing with the rhythm of the world, slow and steady, like a heartbeat echoing through water. Everything feels lighter now. The ink, the map, the emperor, even the record. All of it drifts away like dust in sunlight, leaving behind only warmth. That quiet warmth you get when a story ends exactly the way it was supposed to. You take a long, deep breath. The air feels cool, almost silvery. Somewhere far away, you imagine the horizon turning to gold. A new dawn waiting patiently just beyond the edges of sleep. The map doesn't exist anymore. But maybe it never needed to. Maybe every story, every whisper, every small act of curiosity is the map, guiding us forward, again and again, into the unknown. You can feel your thoughts slowing down now. Words fade into images, and images fade into color. You don't need to remember everything. You've already carried the best parts with you. The wonder, the stillness, the feeling that somewhere out there, another version of you is starting the same story again. So for now, just breathe. Let the sound of your own heartbeat be the last thing you notice. Let the quiet hum fill the room. Let the story fade softly into the background, where dreams begin to take over. And when you finally close your eyes, know this, the map remembers you, even when you forget it. End of script. Sweet dreams. Crescent moon.